Yeah, hi, good morning. We want to start a few notes on chapter 8. A little deviation from the book on this, but I found some other sources that I think really talk about this idea of collaborative culture. So let's get into it. We'll be about 40 minutes, I would think, on this. So, what are our objectives today? We want to talk about a collaborative culture. We want to examine the meaning. We want to talk about communication, dialogue, boundary spanning activities, talk about successes and what makes a collaborative organization. Uh, we got to pause and stop here. And this is another one of these things that I think is kind of nirvana. And it's a situation that's not a rock scrunge band, I guess it was called from the 2000s. I want to talk about nirvana, which is kind of the attainment of excellence. I think is an Indian meditative description. But anyway, uh, we read this and we'll look through it, and I'm sure that hopefully, at least through this lecture, as you're listening to it, your head's bobbing up and down like one of those little dogs in the back of a car, one of those bobbleheads, and you're going, yeah, 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 yeah. And then you're getting done and you're saying, well, geez, this is really nice there, Mike, but this isn't reality. This isn't where I work. And to make this where you work is going to be difficult. And I'm not, again, if one of the things, one of the threads that go through this course all the time is that there is no, while there is two absolutes, there's a very bad absolute and a very good absolute. Most things that we talk about rest somewhere in between. So, are you a transformational leader or a transactional leader? Well, I'm not either. I'm somewhere in between. Some things I'm more transactional on, some things I'm more transformational on, but I have a wide range. And want to get this idea with collaborative leadership. I'm going to talk about a pure collaborative leadership organization. And I know they exist. I've seen them. I've not participated in a full one, but I will tell you that lots of the tools, lots of the tricks, lots of the things that we talk about here can and should be implemented in your group, in your team, in your leadership position. Are you going to go in tomorrow or Monday and we'll talk to everybody and say, we used to be this way, but from today on, we're going to be that way, and everything works? Nah, not happening. You guys are all, I can tell by reading, all experienced enough people to know that those kind of things only happen in textbooks and Hallmark movies of the week. So, what we want to talk about now is some techniques of collaborative leadership, some techniques of collaborative management, and think about ways you can implement them and where you work now, what you do now. And hopefully, as you move up the chain, you'll see the strengths of these, which I really, this is one of those management things I kind of really believe in. And you'll see also how it ties into all some of the other things we've talked about servant leadership, about the idea of a leader being a follower, about the idea of a leader um, charging the group up so that the leader kind of is more of a steering agent rather than the agent that's in charge of everything. And that's kind of, we'll learn a lot of these things here. It's very difficult because if you're more than 16 years old, and I think most of you guys are more than 16 years old. Um, uh, we grow up or have grown up in a very traditional management structure. There's the boss, there's the foreman, and then there's me. And the boss tells the foreman what to do, and the foreman tells me what to do. And in a great place, they'll listen to me when I say no, it could be done a little bit better. But in a lot of places, it's always been this way. It's always this is the way we do it around here, uh, and it becomes frustrating. And if we look at people in our jobs, and we kind of sit back, we realize we have some amazingly talented people that work for us. Amazingly, you guys, if you work for me, you're all amazingly talented. But we use that talent to the best ability. It's like driving around a Alfa Romeo. I have an Alfa Romeo. It's a Italian sports car. I have a kind of a old man's one, but there's an Alfa Romeo right now that has 500 horsepower on it, and it goes from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and it top ends at about 175 miles an hour. Well, it's like driving around an Alfa Romeo and only doing 25 miles an hour in it. So if we have an organization and we are using a very traditional my way or my way, I got to think of the ideas, or we are really like driving an Alfa Romeo in 25 mile an hour traffic. We're getting nowhere near the full capacity of the organization. And what we're going to talk about in this lecture and in your management style is how can you energize and optimize your organization. And if you use the traditional management style of the past, you're going to be sub-optimizing. And sub-optimization is not a way to go. Now, can you convert completely to this? No, I don't know. It depends on where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with. And that's the other thread, I think, is we talk about two poles in management. We talk about one way or the other, and we're all somewhere in between. The other thing we want to talk about is every time one of the skills of management is being adaptable to the situation we're presented to today. So, for example, the idea of collaborative management for a soldier getting ready to tell people to climb up the hill and get the machine gun nest is not a time where we all sit around and say, well, what's the purpose of getting this? Do you think? But on the other hand, you have to fill people with some desire to do that. What gets you to get a platoon of soldiers to run up the hill in the face of fire? Well, one is your training, and two is that you have a sense of mission. You have a sense of depending on each other. How many times have you heard a military person talk about somebody as my brother? I've been there, and I know what that feeling is. And if we could move some of that my brother feeling into work, wouldn't that be a good idea? Okay, so let's kind of get off and start talking about what is culture. It's kind of the way we work around here. It's what we are. You go into I mean, if you've changed jobs, you go into some place and everybody's friendly and nice, and they all get together after work sometimes. They have a team, bowling team or softball team. People are kind of excited about that. You get into other cultures where it's head down, uh, hands on the keyboard, and when the whistle blows, you get up and walk away and come in the next day and do the same thing. Um, I've been lucky. I'm kind of a social. When I did my test there that you guys all just wrote your paper on, I like people. I like crowds. I like to talk to people. And I know one of the students put down, doesn't everybody? And I will tell you, no, they don't. I know that lots of people that kind of leave me alone. I worked for somebody one time, and they were the happiest when their office door was shut, and they were just cranking on numbers. They wanted very little to do with other people. I can give you a practical example, and my wife's out of the house right now working. So she was offered a promotion when we first got together, and I don't know whether I told you she was a widow and I'm a widower, and we've only been married about 8 years. But anyway, when we first met, she was offered a pretty significant promotion, and she came home and she said, "I think I'm going to turn it down." And I go, "Well, why? It's more money." And she said, "Well, uh, you know, I'm working by myself now, and I'm only responsible for myself, and I really like that." And she says, "When I take this new job, I'm going to have 6 people that work for me, and I'm just really concerned about having to." So she has been the benefit of my management training over the last 8 years. And this is again a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie, but she has just been recognized significantly as a leader in her organization. She always was, but she just was a little happier just being responsible for ourselves. And I think we all are. How many times have you been with a team and they're doing something and it's not working quite right, and you just say, "Give me that, I'll take it, I'll get it done." We've all done that. We're all that strong personality. And what you really have to do, and I've learned this as I've gotten older, is kind of swallow hard and kind of let people go. Our jobs as leaders and managers is to teach people. It's not, and that's primarily one of our first jobs, not to kind of make the get the job done at the cost of our organization. So culture, the way we work around here, what's important, what is the background of where we work, and that's defined. And we talk about culture in this lesson, and you've talked about it probably in every other management course you've taken. Culture is artifacts, things. The way we all, if we all dress, our company logo. I started a company one time, and I was from scratch, and we were just it was a physician practice of about 30 physicians, and I spent probably as much time uh, with the logo that we were going to use, the artifact that kind of put us through, than I did on lots of what I thought higher management things like getting our Medicare number. But lots of the physicians were very concerned about what that image was to both our staff and to our people that we served. And so you look at artifacts, look at things that you can see easily, behaviors. If you've ever been to Kansas City, there's a barbecue place there called Gates Brothers. And when you walk into Gates, the person at the cashier says, "Hello, welcome to Gates," to everybody who walks in the door. It's kind of a mark of the organization. I think. Well, there's lots of places. I think some hamburger place does it too. But that's a behavior. That's an artifact of that corporation that they greet everybody coming in the door. Now, artifacts can be very unique and very um, distinctive. They can be, day to day, but there's something that we easily see, and that's ingrained in our behavior. Nordstrom's, the clothing store, has a policy that every employee has to write a handwritten letter to, and I don't know what the amount of customers is anymore, but it was like 2 or 3 letters a day they had to write to the customer and saying thank you for coming in and shopping Nordstrom's. You talk about a company with a lot of artifacts. Is look at Southwest Airlines. Their one artifact is they don't wear uniforms. They wear shorts. Uh, they're very casual in their approach to customer service. Some of my funnier. I've traveled as a consultant a lot, and I was flying Southwest almost exclusively because they were cheaper. But just flying on the plane, they talk to you. We had people singing the thing about putting your seatbelts on. I remember we were coming back. I was coming back from a job flying into St. Louis on a Friday night to go home, and the plane is packed. We were coming from New York, and there's lots of Anheuser-Busch people on it. It's hot. It's all 3 seats filled, all plane. And the flight attendants were just really trying to cheer everybody up. You're going home, the end of a tough week. And we landed in St. Louis, and you know how when you land, the pilot puts on the brakes and the plane kind of shudders? Well, he landed a little hot, a little fast, and he was really braking. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear the flight attendant get up on the announcement system and go, "Whoa, Nelly!" And the whole plane broke up. They're artifacts of that company. They're very customer oriented and very casual about it. We've gone into other places and not so much. Think about healthcare. Do you want somebody to come in and be like loose and goosey? Why do doctors wear ties? Other artifacts that you can think of real quickly. Why do executives wear suits and women wear formal, much more formal dress? And down in the working bees probably wear uniforms or wear much more casual clothes. The artifact kind of, when you look at somebody, you say, "Oh, you're in a suit. They must be important." Spouse values. What's the goals of the organization? What's our charter? What's our mission statement? If you've taken any management course, you've gone through all these things already. What's our reason for existence? Um, Again, I'll give you some ideas how to be the smartest person in the room. Whenever you're in a meeting, a team meeting, and everybody's kind of gone, and the meeting is one of those things that was supposed to last 20, 25 minutes, and we're now on our second hour, and people are proposing things, and raise your hand and say, how does this fit in with our mission statement? the room will suddenly get silent and everybody will look at you like you're crazy. Uh, what does this project do, or how does this project integrate with what we say our values are? And if it doesn't, then what are we doing it for? And if it does, then let's go on. And then some kind of basic assumptions about the organization. What we think. Uh, what are the core behaviors? Uh, are we very much of a military type organization, hierarchical values, a very disciplinary orientation? If you do this, fine. If you don't do it, we're going to take you out in the morning and shoot you at the firing squad. Or we relationship centered, collaborative. We call everybody. One of the things I always is interesting is, what do we call everybody in the job? Do we call people above us Mister and Miss and Mrs. or Ms.? Or do we call them Steve and Carol and Joe? Um, those kind of things, when I was doing consulting work, I'd walk around and they kind of gave me a tip off real fast of what the organization and how the organization was set up. Uh, do they have a differentiation between the executives and the regular people? Are there and is there an executive dining room and a regular dining room at lunch? Uh, do you see people sprinkled together by work group? Do you see people having lunch or enjoying themselves across the different parts of the hospital? Lots of places you can do that just by recognizing the uniform. What is that level of culture in the organization? Um, Affirmative cultures, we want to, and that's what we're kind of talking about, this idea of affirmative cultures. We want to sustain the idea that we need to contribute and collaborate together in a positive manner. And we have to have this positive dialogue communications. You're going to hear that a lot. I know of people, I worked at places that encouraged competition. They would say, I gave you a project and I gave Steve a project, or I gave Sally a project, and the first one that gets it done best is what we're going to adopt. They One of the ways I find that competition rears its ugly head is selective knowledge. So I will tell some people some things and other people other things, and not the same information across the board. So I've given everybody little pieces of the puzzle because I don't want them to know what we know. Now, we've talked about, I think I mentioned this in this course, about uh, the hoarding of knowledge is absolutely death to an organization. Uh, but people love to have it. Don't you like to be the only person that knows how to fix the copier? uh, then because people owe you when you fix the copier for them. I told you this. I'm sure we talked about the person. She was the only person in the company who knew how to make a bank deposit. So when she went on vacation, the money sat in the drawer. Uh, Knowledge is power, and knowledge is power. If it's hoarded, it's really uh, a negative power. We should give as much information, as much communication as we possibly can. Now, I know that there's a trade off involved here. How do you share, for example? I believe in sharing financial performance with the staff. I want them to know how we're doing, because that makes a difference in how what they see, and it may also make a difference in how they see decisions made. So if they know we've had two bad quarters in a row and our patients are down, then when I address them and say, gosh, we're on a hiring freeze right now because of this, then they know what's happening. Now, my caveat on this is, tell the truth. Don't spin stories that you can get caught on, because again, your credibility, your honor is probably one of the few things that you control 100%. I have no problem telling people, this is confidential information. Please don't tell anybody. Um, and I also have no problem saying, this is information I really can't share with you, but trust me on this. If your bias should be letting everybody know as much as you possibly can, not your bias should be hiding it from people. I was at a practice one time, and before I got there and after I got there, the the financials at the end of the month were gathered together for all the physicians. And there was a little physician lounge, and the CFO would go in and throw the entire company's financials on the desk as soon as they were approved by the administrator, me. And then we leave them there. And so the doctors could look and see what each one was doing, how much they made, how many patients they saw. And there's nothing that gets a doctor's juices flowing a little bit is not being the last person on the barrel. So we use their type A personality kind of by sharing information with them. But it also helped us as managers when we talked to them about things. They had access to the information. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we do to sustain these cultures. One is communicate every day to the staff. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Let people know what they're doing. I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression the mushroom treatment. I was just down in Pennsylvania for my brother's funeral, and it's near Kennett, Pennsylvania, which is called the mushroom capital of the world. And if you know how mushrooms are grown in dark. So Kennett has a lot of limestone caves. And so the mushrooms are grown in these caves in the dark because they're fungus, right? And they're fertilized using manure. You probably, hopefully, are enough farmers to know what manure is, but that makes the best mushrooms. So we have a business expression, sort of like the Tower of Babel the other day, and it's called the mushroom treatment. And that's keep them in the dark and feed them manure. And we don't want that. We don't want the mushroom treatment. We want to communicate with our staff every day. How we doing? There was a mayor of New York, and he'd open up every presentation he was at. He'd look to the crowd and go, "How am I doing?" And he'd stop and he'd listen to what they have to say. So we want to talk to the staff every day. I know a lot of you now are using this new, which is new to me because I'm old, but it's probably about 4 or 5 years old, stand-up meetings to start the day. Clint Studer started that, and the idea is great, where we just have 4 or 5 minutes with our staff, and we can be hierarchical. I can meet with my managers, and then the managers meet with the staff, but spending a few minutes every day telling them the information that they need to know for the day. Think about in healthcare. You're in the ladies. Well, you all my classes is women, so I can say you're in the ladies' room, and you're fixing your hair or something, and somebody comes in and goes, "Oh, did you hear Dr. Smith is leaving?" Is that the way you want to find out? I mean, if you don't have to fix your hair a lot, you don't get the information, that old back channel information. Wouldn't you rather like to hear in the morning your manager said, "We unfortunately Dr. Smith just submitted his resignation. She's moving to another place and did another job." We then feel that we're part of the team. When we share communication and let everybody feel they're part of the team, they start to do that. When you hide information or hold it back, then people don't feel like they're participating. They feel like they're the mushroom. Okay? We want one of the things I found when that I was applying for a job, and we were interviewed by the all the high hitters, the heavy hitters, the manager and the doctors, and we were affiliated with a hospital, so I had to go meet with the hospital president. And then the afternoon, I met with all the managers in groups of about 4 or 5, and went into a room with a cup of coffee, and they started asking me questions. Now, all the people above me were asking questions that you can go look in any internet thing about interview questions. What's the most exciting thing you've ever done in your life? And tell me a time when you made something a mistake and how you corrected it. So I had all those. Where do you expect to be in 5 years? And then you're going to meet with the staff, and they're not asking you those questions. They're asking you stuff off the wall, like you know, can you fire somebody, or how do I do this, and they ask real life things that were important to them. So two things. One is you want to listen, and remember, two ears listen twice as much as you speak, and you just kind of were yourself because you didn't have a lot of chance to prepare. So I interviewed with the staff, and one of the questions asked to me was, "How do you go about hiring somebody?" And I said, "Well, uh, I don't. What I do is we have HR put out the requisition, and then they do some screening of it. They eliminate people. They check the references. They check their job history and such." I said, "But I have the managers interview the people." And they were like, "You really do?" And I said, "Yeah. If I'm going to hold you as a manager accountable, how can I hold you accountable when when I assemble your team based on my feelings and what I need?" I said, "You're down where the rubber meets the road. You know what you need in the organization, and if I'm going to hold you accountable for that, I have to give you some opportunity to kind of make your own world." So anyway, I got the job, by the way, and about 6, 8 months later, I was talking to the head nurse, and she said, she said there was two candidates that we were down to. She said one came in, and you. And she said the answer you gave about how you hire was the thing afterwards we all talked about because we all thought that we should be involved and we never were involved in the hiring process. So when at first I got there, I found out they weren't. Now, I hate doing interviews. It's I got better things to do with my life, and it seems foolish. So I would have their team interview, and so necessitated that we get together, we give them the HR brief. These are the questions you can ask, and this is what you're doing, and we gave them a lot of education on it, and we just turned it over to them. The second piece I think about team formation starts the day you walk on the job. How many jobs have you? I can think of a job whenever I talk about this. I came on and I was there a week, 7 days before I got the password to my computer. Now this was a consulting job, so I wasn't in charge. I was a consultant, and I could not get the password to start my computer. I was camping out. Oh, we'll be right up. Oh, we'll fix it. So they paid me for a week where I sat on there and surfed the web. Uh, how many times have you gone into a place and they say, "Oh, we don't have a desk for you yet, so could you sit over here?" Because they're on vacation. Uh, I think the onboarding process, first impression, you can change everything but your first impression. Um, if you don't have a good first impression, if you don't make that first impression, and we're going to spend time in Lecture 8 talking about onboarding. I've asked you for some suggestions on what you want to talk about in the last lecture, and you haven't given to me, so you're leaving to my devices. Anyway, reinforce your history. The organization is successful, and let's dwell on our successes rather than our failures. You want people to know about what the organization's doing. You want people there to be proud of what they did and let the new people know that they're coming into a great place. The worst thing in the world is when somebody comes on board and says, yeah, this place, it really sucks. Mm. I was on a ship one time in the Navy, and when a new people would come on all times of the day or the night based on um, transportation. And if a person came on at night, we would just let them go and go down to their compartment where they lived and just kind of be there. And talking to sailors, I mean, here's your first day on a ship and you're scared and you go down to the compartment. And usually the only people there are the people that don't have any place better to go. And it's not a positive atmosphere. They got to kind of find everything. So we came up with a checkoff list for new people on board, and in every evening we'd have 6 or 7 people that were designated as greeters. And when a new person come on board, we'd have a package for them. We'd have a map of the ship. We'd have their bed linens all put together for them. We would know how to get them to a compartment. So we made that initial experience great. We reinforced the history of the ship by giving them a ship's history, telling them the good things, the great things about the ship, rather than stumbling down into a compartment. So we wanted to make that onboarding experience proper, and we wanted to make them from the very beginning. We gave them a patch, and I know this when you're hearing a lecture, it's not a big thing. But the first thing we did, we gave him a ship's patch, and the guy spent 15 minutes explaining what the patch meant, the history of the ship, who's who in the ship. We had pictures of people. Um, this is the captain. This is the second. This is the guy you're going to work for. We told them the history so that from the day they walked on board, they knew what the USS um, England was about. We want to celebrate personal life. Um, I find that places that really are successful, these things are looked at well, and places that are unsuccessful, they're looked at as a burden. So, company picnics, birthday celebrations, uh, anniversaries of work, your fifth year here, your seventh year there. Every place I do tries to do them. Some places they are absolutely a gas, and they're places that have an affirmative culture to start off with. Other places, it's like, do we have to go? We're going to hear the CEO give the same speech he gave the last 5 times. Uh, so when we celebrate things, I was reading was I was preparing for this. One place has where when it's your birthday, you bring in some things from your life to share with people, and you get up in front of the crowd and say, "Oh, here's my lacrosse stick. I played lacrosse in college," or "Here's pictures of my vacation. We went to Italy 2 years ago," and you want them to understand a little bit about you. Everybody, get the crowd together. Don't make it a. I've been in places where it was a real clique, where there was only certain people that got birthday parties and other people's didn't get birthday parties. You want to do as much as you can to let people know what's happened. Somebody gets an award, somebody gets a promotion. Let everybody know that. The other thing is honor the individual and their individuality. Um, we want to. I always like. The expression, I want to walk around throwing a lot of roses. I want to walk around saying a lot of good things about people. Um, I think the idea is you praise in public and you admonish in private. Now, I'm a guy, so I'll tell you my great uh, follow into that rule. If I'm going to send my wife flowers for Valentine's Day or birthday, something nice, I never send them to home. I always send them to where she works. Why? Because nothing makes somebody feel better than sitting at your desk and having the florist guy come in with a whole bunch of flowers and everybody else in the office go, ooh, because it makes me look good and it makes my wife feel like, wow, there's a real representation there. People are envious of me because my husband isn't the big schlub they thought he was. So when you want to honor an individual, you don't want to just run them into your office. That being said, always, always, always look to honor an individual. I worked at a hospital one time as a consultant, and we were obligated every Friday to write 2 cards to people that did a good job that week. So we had, first of all, as a boss, we had to find out. So we had to talk to people who was doing a good job. We also wrote a personal card to everybody that celebrated a service anniversary. So congratulations. It was 6 months, a year, and then every year after that. Congratulations, Sally, for your first 6 months at Nybert Clinic. We hope you enjoyed yourself. We're really happy with the way you're doing things. Or we would never say get better doing this, or we look to forward more challenging positions for you in the future, but just to let them know that they're alive. And we want to encourage personal connection any way we can. By Bill, right now, I don't know if you guys follow this stuff, but an awful lot of companies are doing away with offices. My wife works for a large, large, large international bank, and they are now going to almost entirely cubicles. And they have floors so that you go down to see. She was down with the president of the company, and he has a cubicle. He has a secretary, has a small cubicle outside, and you walk into his cube. Now, his cube's a little bigger than my wife's. It's got more furniture and all, but it's still right out on the floor. And the whole idea is that he's not locked up. And I think about hospitals. I worked in many of them, and all the elephants, all the C-suiters, the CEO, CFO, COO, CNO. They're all up in one area. All their offices are together. If you walk around, that's probably a carpeted area. It's an area away from everything else, away from the noise and all that kind of good stuff. So you feel like you're going to church when you go up there. How, as a CEO, how, as a CFO, how, as a manager, are you going to get to know what's happening being hidden away in the corner? I like my office right in the middle of the action. I'm smart enough that if it gets noisy, I can shut the door. I put a sign. My policy always been if my door is shut, please knock to come in, but don't walk in because I might be working on something. So anyway, those are kind of things that we can sustain this affirmative culture for. Lots of them are just. Remember we talked about the function, the process, and the outcome, the form, process, and the outcome. Some of them are forms. Some of them are just the way we set up. Google is the model for that office, open office now. Some of them are process. How do we meet people? How do we greet people? And others are outcomes. How do we take care of our staff? So when we look at all this affirmative culture, it starts from the day that person is interviewed for the job and ends when someone leaves. How do we treat people that leave? Now, if they're leaving it under good circumstances, I celebrate that. My job has always been to make you a better person, to make you being able to be sustain a better position. So if you're a biller in my organization and you get a job as a business office manager someplace else, I've been successful. Now I cry and carry on that you're leaving because I got to fill that position and that's difficult. But deep down inside, that's what my good goal is, to make you, to provide a climate where you can grow. And if you can't grow in our place, find another place to grow. So anyway, so, what are some of the other things we do? We want to be positive. We want to increase that idea of self efficiency. We want to have people believe they have a range of choices. We want people to take action, and we want to increase creativity and productivity. We want to mobilize our workforce. We want back to that transformational workforce we talk about. We want things to happen and things to pop. And what are some of the ways we do that? First of all, lead by example. Uh, I am a victim of 20 years in the military, and we had a thing called General Article 20. And that General Article 20 was lead by example. Uh, I don't know how many of you have experience with military people. I'll tell you some military stories here. The Marine Corps, the officer in charge of a platoon in the Marine Corps is the last person through the chow line. So when they have a cafeteria, we'll call it for the people that aren't familiar. But when his people come time to go through the cafeteria, everyone eats before he does. And the reason is that he wants to be the last guy through to make sure that the last guy is getting the same good rations as the first guy. Uh, the old "do as I say, not as I do" is stinky. I don't know. I have how it works in different places, but I know in lots of places we'll get things. Somebody will come in and give me baseball tickets, or somebody will come in and uh, uh, give me at Christmas time. We get presents from different vendors. Uh, you could pack them all in the car and take them home. I'm not going to get rich or better by doing that. So I would always take them and put them out to everybody else. I wanted to show that I can be selfless just like everybody else should be. So when I get a base set of baseball tickets, they go in and we'd have a raffle for them. Uh, some places everybody got a ticket. We just pulled your name out. Other places, if we had a charity that we were working on together as a group, we would have 3 for $1 for the charity. We want to focus on this idea of giving people benefits. Why should you work here and your check is not enough? Everybody thinks that the pay is a satisfier, and I'm sure you've taken a course where you talk about Hertzberg and his either satisfiers or dissatisfiers. And what that really means is that pay does not satisfy you, lack of pay dissatisfies you. And if you say that, oh no, pay motivates me, I'll ask you this question. How quickly after your last pay raise were you looking for your next pay raise? Um, I've never gotten a raise where they said, "Here's your pay raise, Mike, and that's the last one you're ever going to get because it's all you need in the world." It's not going to happen. So when we look at why people work there, they work there for what they perceive as individual and organizational benefits, things that make it worth their while. Pay being one of them, but usually pay is just something that uh, makes you mad. It doesn't make you better. Uh, what makes you come to work? I mean, I feel good about the place, and we have to leadership to have that happen. We want to talk about behavior and strategy before technology. I love computers. I love cell phones. I love anything that has electronics in it, but they are only tools. They satisfy nothing. If I can't talk about where what I want people to do and what they want to do and how we want to do it, and then bring in technology. We find so many places now that figure if they put a computer on your desk, then their problems are solved. Not the case. Uh, we should design things and make plans and processes, and then see how computers can help. Then see how technology can help. We can make your work a lot easier. I've gone to I went to a place where there was a woman who was had a logbook, and she was hand logging information every day. We went to a barcode where she could scan it, and she just thought this was the greatest thing since canned beer and sliced bread. So we wanted to look at what the process is, tease it apart, find out how it works with our mission, and then see what we can do, maybe technology wise, to make it better. We don't start with technology and then change the firm. Another important thing in affirmative leadership is know how to get out of the way. Uh, I had a job one time, again in the military, and I was just going up and talking to the captain all the time and telling him what I was doing, and and he said to me one day, he said, "Just go do your job, and I'll figure it out. Don't bother me every day to tell me what's happening." And so we did that, and about 2 years later, he was leaving, and we had a little nice going away party, and I'm sitting at the bar where you can usually find me, and he comes up and he just wants to say, "Mike, I want to thank you for a great job you did." And I said, "Oh, I'm more than you're more than welcome, Captain." And he looks at me and he says, he said, I did the job you did 4 times." And he said, "Quite frankly, by the fourth time, I did it a lot better than you." And he said, "So anytime I looked at what you were doing, I knew I could do it better. But if I did it, you wouldn't learn." And he said, "The good thing about you is you learned as you went along and got better and better." And he said, "That's a good thing, because if you didn't, I would have fired you." And right then, a cold wind blew over my back and my hair stood up, because I thought he was kind of a Mr. Perry Como casual guy. And in fact, uh, he wasn't. He was pretty calculating and cool. So get out of the way. People don't learn. I think about what you've learned. I find most of my best lessons in life and in business have had a tinge of failure about them. Whenever I have a success, I don't know whether I was successful or just the luck fell my way. So don't grab the papers up and say, "Let me do it. I can do it better." Have patience. You want to have collaboration in the workflow. You want to make sure that no one person feels they're out there on an island, that they always know there's other people to come to, that you want to reward behavior and reward organizational and team behavior also. Uh, we, happy there's a male expression, and I think it fits in, but it's happy wife, happy life. And they say happy husband, happy life, but they don't rhyme. But you have to understand that the employee, that the things that work for the organization, happy organizations have better customers. And then finally, adapt and evolve. No leadership plan, no process is forever. Just look at some of the social changes that have happened in our organizations in the last 7, 8 years. Uh, the Me Too movement that's out now, which I think is strong and great. We look at the movement, the LGBTQ movement, that all of a sudden just exploded on us for years and years and years. These are big social movements that have changed some of the ways companies work or some of the ways they perceive things. And there's lots more subtle ones. Just look at cell phones. So be always ready to change. I always say be agile and mobile. Uh, the hallmarks of high performing teams, they're flat, and you get power because you earn it. Leaders are leaders because other chooses to follow them. How many times have you worked for a boss who was the most incompetent idiot in the face of the earth? That is not never going to be a high performing place. They're noisy with debate. We always want a challenge. We always want, but we don't want that fear that if I talk to you and say, "Gee, I don't agree with that, Mike," you're going to put a little black mark next to my name, and the next time you had a chance, you'll stab me in the back. Good organizations have this ability to comment, to work together without fear of retribution. Mistakes are part of that. They're seen as learning processes, and we all have a hard time with that. We all think that we're going to make a mistake and they're going to walk in and say, "Geez, I did this wrong," and they're going to say, "Okay, good, you're fired." Very rarely happens if you're a good worker. Think about the people that you know that have been let go in your organization, and you know why they've been let go, and everybody else knows why, including them. Intense listening and questioning, and you notice I put listening first before questioning. Uh, Listen to what other people have to say. One of the problems in listening, and if you take a course in communications, is the famous yes, but. And that's yes, but. Someone says something and you go, yes, but, instead of listening to what they said. You have, and the way communication works for so many people is you're listening to them, and as you're listening to them, the one part of your mind is listening to them, and the other part of your mind is starting to look how you can improve, disapprove, or challenge that word they said. So somebody said, "I think we should paint this room green because green will go with a lot of other things." And as soon as they stop, you go, "Yes, but if we painted blue, it's cheaper because we have blue paint." Uh, you want to listen, and then you want maybe sometimes want to let other people talk too. Don't be the conversation person. Every decision is seen in a hypothesis that it will evolve without judgments. The brainstorming technique. Remember, uh, I always say there's no stupid ideas. There's only stupid people who make stupid ideas. That's a joke. Uh, Listen to what everybody has to say. There's probably some truth or some feeling. No one gets up and proposes to something stupid if they don't believe it. So listen, they're fluid, loose organizations, and they liberate talent all across the company. It's not that only people that should know about lab are lab techs. The only people that should know X-ray are X-ray techs. Sometimes somebody who walks in who is not one of those people can ask those questions or make those suggestions. Leaders break down silos. Silos are the big business term for those grain elevators where they're long and hard and big and they're contained and they don't share. We want to share. We have this, and I love this word, profound understanding that everyone needs each other, that we're all in this together. Nobody wins unless everybody wins. No one should be wasted talent. We have amazing talent in our organizations, and we should be using it. We want a community with shared interests, exchange of information. We want to develop those interests. We want to ask these questions. Who are we? What matters in our organization? What do our people talk about? Where do we spend our energy? Uh, we should be spending our energy on the most important thing. How many times have you been spent all day looking for something because somebody wants to see it? It doesn't really make any kind of contribution to the organization, and it's a waste of time. You have better things to do with your time. How do we? So, if you're a leader that tasks people like that, if you're one of these people that sits there and has no plan and just whatever comes down, yeah, say, "Yeah, let's go do this today." You're not going to have this professional and interprofessional culture. What issues do we talk about, and how are we going to develop this sense of shared purpose without denying our diversity? And I think that's real easy. I think if we look to that point of listening, engaging, listen twice. We look at that whole point that everybody brings something different to the table. That's why we want a diverse organization. So, anyway, that's about it for the day. I will get this up, and I have a couple TED Talks or a couple videos I want to put up too. If you like those, I like those, so I'm going to keep putting them up. But if you'd rather not have them, just let me know. And have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you on the discussion board. Thanks a bunch.